Hi and welcome. In this video, we will be seeing about Codechef October Long Challenge question number 2 operations on a matrix. Okay, we will understand the question first. We will see what is a normal approach, a brute force approach. We will see why that approach will not work and how do we get a better optimized approach for the question, and at the end we will see the code for it. Okay, first let's begin with the understanding of the problem statement. Okay, let's start. So this is operations on a matrix. So what is the question? Sakshi had a matrix with n rows numbered 1 through n and m columns numbered 1 through m. Okay, initially all cells of this matrix considered contained zeros. So we will have a matrix, okay, of n cross m. We will have a matrix of n rows and m columns, and initially all will be zeros. So if n is 3 and m is 3, initially all will be zeros. All values in the matrix will be zeros. This is the first line. Let's denote the cell by R and column by C. Okay, so row by R and column by C. Fine. Sakshi is well known for troubling others. This time her friends planned to take revenge and teach her a lesson. So they changed her matrix by performing the following operations q times. So these are our three operations. First we choose xy, okay, a position, we choose a position. Then using that position we will add 1 to all cells in a row x and add 1 to all cells in a row y. So we will choose a row number, we will choose a column number, and we will add 1 to all the elements in the row and 1 to all the columns in that row. Okay, now what they are asking Sakshi to do is they are asking whether after doing all these operations, find the number of cells in the resulting matrix which contains odd integers, So first let me explain you the question. First it is important to understand the question. Okay, we will have input, we will have our output, we will have our constraints, but first let's see what is the question. Fine. So if my n equals to 3 and m equals to 3, so this is my matrix, this is my total matrix. Okay, this one, it is rows and these are columns. So this is my row and these are my column. Fine, 1 2 3 and 1 2 3. Now for example the operations that are given to me on the row and column are these. So I have to calculate 1 and 1. I have to calculate 1 and 1. So after reading this, let's go to the input. So first line is T, denoting the test cases. Second line contains n and m, that is the number of rows and number of columns, and a q. What is q? Q stands for query. So this query xi and x and y. So how many times we will choose rows and columns and change each and every value in that row and in that column, that many times this q will denote. Okay, and that many times we will have x and yi value. For example, in this n is 2 and m is 2, so we will have a matrix 0 0 0 0 and q is 3. That means we will have three queries. The first query is 1 1, the second query is 1 2, the third query is 2 1. Okay, query 1 1 means you have to select the first row and you have to select the first column, and in each of the elements in the first row and first column you have to increment the value by 1. You have to increment the value by 1. Similarly for query 2, similarly for query 3. After all this query, in the resultant matrix you have to count the number of odd integers. Now let's see how this is done. Now let's see what actually the question is. So if n equals to 3, m equals to 3, so this is my matrix. Okay, these are my queries, row and column, 1 1 1 2 2 1 2 2. This is just a random sample test case. Okay, so how this will move? So first we have to select the row number 1. So select the row number 1, and in all the elements, in all the cells, increase the value by 1. Okay, so here we did it. So in all the elements, value is increased by 1. Now select column number 1, that is nothing but this column, and increase the value by 1. So here, see this. In this column, all values are increased by 1. 1 plus 1 will become 2. 0 plus 1 will become 1, and 0 plus 1 will become 1. So after this query, the resultant matrix that I got was this. Okay, resultant matrix I got for this. Now first query is done. Let's move to a second query. It is saying that select row number 1, so select this row and increment all values by 1. Okay, so here we are incrementing all values by 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. So all values in this row are incremented by 1. Okay, then it is saying that select column number 2, select column number 2 and increment all these values by 1. Increment all these values by 1. Okay, so here we are incrementing column number 2 values by 1. As you can see here, 2 plus 1 becomes 3, 0 plus 1 becomes 1 and 0 plus 1 becomes 1. Okay, so this is the resultant matrix after the second query. Fine, I hope you are understanding this. So two queries are over, go to the third one. So here we have to select row number 2. Here we have to select row number 2. Okay, this one. So you have to select this row and you have to increment each value by 1. So here we are doing that, incrementing each value by 1. Okay, now these all values are incremented. Now select column number 1 and increment all the values in the column number 1 by 1. Okay, so here we are incrementing all the values in the column number 1 by 1. Okay, so 3 is incremented to 4, 2 to 3 and 1 to 2. So after query 3 we get our matrix as this. Okay, similarly we have to move to other queries. So first select row number 2. First select row number 2 and increment its all values by 1. So here we are incrementing. Then select column number 2 and increment all these values by 1. So here we incremented all the values by 1 in column number 2 also. So the resultant matrix after fourth query is this. Okay, in the fifth query you have to select row number 3. You have to select row number 3 and increment all the value by 1. So here we did it, and column number 1 and increment all the value by 1. So here we did it. Okay, and in the last one select row number 1 first, increment all the values of row number 1. So here we did it, and column number 3, this one, and increment all the value. Here we did it. So the final answer that we got for these queries and this input was 654,543,432, and in this you have to calculate the number of odd elements, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So in total we have 4 odd elements. So the output of this query will be 4. Output of this query will be 4. So this is actually the question. Okay, so a simple approach comes to mind. Whatever we have just seen, that is one kind of an approach. So just take a matrix, create a matrix of n into m size, okay. In all positions put 0, and one by one for each query change the matrix. Okay, for q query you need to access n into m elements each time. Okay, for q query you have to access these elements. Fine, so this already is n square, matrix, and q number of times. So q n square will be your time complexity. For changing the matrix each and every time. You have to select n first row and you have to run a loop in that row. Then you have to select one column and you have to run a loop in that column. So every time you have to run two loops. Inside q. So the brute force approach will actually not work. In the brute force approach, as you can see here in the constraints, n and m can be 10 to the power of 5. So n square will definitely not work. It will go beyond 1 second. Okay, so what we need to do, we actually have to do this in order of n time. So let's see the approach of how we can do this question in order of n time. Okay, so this is the final answer that we get, but we know that in this one we clearly know that brute force will not work. So we have to do an order of n approach. So how will we do it? So this was my original matrix, and this is my final matrix. Okay, this is how we got the matrix using brute force approach. So now how we will use order of n, see how to use order of n. So how many times will this block get updated? How many times will this cell get updated? How we can know this directly? That this cell will be updated how many times? So row number 1, row equals to 1, and column equals to 1 represent this cell. Row is equal to 1 and column equal to 1 represent this cell. So the number of times row will become 1 in the query and column is 1 in the query, that many times this cell is definitely updated. That many times this cell is definitely updated. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in total 1 is coming in row 3 times, in column 3 times. So in total 6 times we will update this cell. So as you can see, the answer is 6. Okay, let's move on to the second cell. You will understand this. So row number is 1 and column number is 2. So how many times row number 1 is coming? So 1, 2, 3 times row number 1 is coming. How many times? 3 times. And how many times column number 2 is coming? So it is 1 and 2. So 2 times column number 2 is coming, and the final answer is 5. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Row number 1 and column number 3. So we are here right now. Row number 1 and column number 3. So how many times row number 1 is coming? 3 times. And how many times column number 3 is coming? Column number 3 is coming just 1 time. So what is the answer? 4. Okay, so let's move on to this one now. Row number 2 and column number 1. Row number 2 and column number 1. Fine. How many times row number 2 is coming? Row number 2 is coming 1 time and 2 times. How many times column number 1? 1, 2, 3. 3 times. So what is the final answer? 5. I think you know what sign will come here in the between of these values. So r equals to 2 and column equals to 2. So r2 is coming 2 times and column 2 is coming 2 times. So the final answer is 4. Okay, so I think you got the approach. So r is coming 3 times and column is r equals to 2 and column equals to 3. So r is coming, r equals to 2, that is 2 times, and column equals to 3, that is 1 time. So total becomes 3. Okay, so I think you got the approach how we can get directly the values without using the matrix. We just have to count how many times these values are coming, how many times these values are coming, and how many times its pair is coming, how many times its pair is coming. Now if we even count it out, can we directly get the answer in order of n time? So for example, I know that I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, in row, if I have an array of row here 1 is coming how many times? 3 times. 2 is coming 2 times. 3 is coming 1 time. Okay, these are the values. Similarly for column, so let me write it here. So row here is 1, 2, 3. It is coming 3 times, it is coming 2 times, and it is coming 1 times. We can easily calculate how many times they are coming. Okay, and column equals to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So column 1 is coming 3 times, it is coming 2 times, and it is coming 1 time. Okay, so now how will you do this? How will you find out how many numbers of columns are there? So if you want row equals to 1 and column equals to 1, so again actually if you want row equals to 1 and column equals to 1, then you want row equals to 1 and column equals to 2, then you want row equals to 1 and column equals to 3. So isn't it again 2 for loops? So one for loop for keeping this and one for loop for iterating in the column. Then adding 3 plus 3 is 6, 3 plus 2 is 5, 3 plus 1 is how much? 4. So odd is how much? Just 1 time. So odd, or increment the odd count by 1. Okay, then come here in the next one. So here 2 plus 3 is 5, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 2 plus 1 is 1. So how many times odd is coming? 2 plus 1 is 3. So how many times odd is coming? 1 time and 2 time. So total 1 plus 2 becomes 3. So 3 times odd is coming. Then again you have to do this for this one, the last one. So again you are simply doing the same process, isn't it? Again you are doing the same process, that is you are using 2 nested for loops. You are using nested for loops. Okay, so if I have this, I am still using nested for loops. Let me explain you this point very clearly. Here what we had, we have r. Okay, 1, 2, 3. How many times 1 is coming? 1 was coming 3 times, it was coming 2 times, and it was coming 1 time. For C also the same case, 3 time, 2 time, and 1 time. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Fine. So how you will do this? So for I equal to 1, I less than equal to 3, I plus plus for this one row, and for j equal to 1, j less than equal to 3, and j plus plus for column, that is 2 loops, add row of I and row of j. Okay, if this addition, if add is odd, count plus plus, count plus plus. So this is also a simple code, but here this code is using two nested loops. So if instead of 3 we have n, so it will become n into n, that is nothing but n square. Okay, so we have to reduce this, we have to reduce this. Now can you guys tell me directly how we can find that how many odd will be there, without comparing, directly how we can find how many odd will be there? So that is the point, you have to think about it. Okay, directly how can you find it? Once you get these two arrays, once you get these two arrays, after getting these two arrays, how can you find directly how many odd will be there? Come on, it is right in front of you, it is right in front of you, that how many times you can directly get without using these loops, that how many odd elements will be there finally, how many odd elements will be there finally. So how will you get this? It's actually very simple. It's nothing but the property that odd plus odd will give you even, isn't it? Odd plus odd will give you even, and odd plus even will give you odd. So odd plus even will definitely give you an odd element. That's what we need. So if I add 3 with 3, that is odd plus odd, will it give me an odd element again? No, it will give me an even element again. So do not do this anything for this. Then for 3 and 2, so 3 plus 3 will definitely even, we do not have to do this. Now 3 plus 2 is 5, we know that it will definitely be an odd plus even is an odd, so yes, we have to do this. And 3 plus 1 both are odd again, so we do not have to do this. So instead of doing 3, we just have to perform one operation. Okay, then again here for the second one, 2 plus 3, we know it will be an odd element, so yes. 2 plus 2, we know it will be an even element, even plus even is even, so no. 2 plus 1, we know it will be an odd element, so yes. So how we can do this directly? How we can do this directly? It's very simple, come on. So what you have to do is just in this array count how many odd elements are there and how many even elements are there. So in this array we have 2 odd elements and 1 even element. Okay, in this array we have 2 odd elements and 1 even elements. So now can you directly tell how many odd elements will we get and how many even elements will we get? So 2 odd elements in this array and 1 even element in this array, if you add these two and these two, cross multiply and add, cross multiply and add, so you will get 2 odd elements from the first cross multiplication and 2 odd elements from the second cross multiplication, and the final answer that you will get is 4. That means you will have in total 4 odd elements. So it is nothing but the property of odd plus odd and odd plus even and nothing else. So in this array 3, 2 and 1, 3 is odd and 1 is odd, so we will get 2 odd elements. Okay, 2 odd elements, and 2 is even, so we'll get 1 even element. Okay, same for the above, same for the other column array, we'll get 2 odd element and 1 even element. Okay, now we know that if I add these two elements with this one even element, okay, these two elements with an even element, odd plus even will give me an odd. So how many elements in total? 2 elements. And here also in the second one, how many elements in total? 2 elements. So total we get 4 elements. Okay, so what is the property? The property is nothing but odd plus odd and odd plus even, odd plus odd and odd plus even. So if I have 1 5 1 4 5 7 9 in my array, and in the second array I have 11 13 12 14 15, so how many odd elements I have here? The odd elements I have here is 4 odd elements and 1 even element. Okay, here also I have 3 odd elements and 1 even element. Okay, what you have to do, just cross multiply. 4 plus 3 equals to, you will have 7 odd elements in total, you will have 7 odd elements in total. I think here we have 2 even elements, so 4 into 2 is 8, so we will have in total 11. In total we will have 11 odd elements. How many? 11 odd elements. You can count, 1 plus 11 will give you an even element. No. 1 plus 13 will give you an even element. No. 1 plus 12 will give you an odd element. 1 plus 14 will give you an odd element. Okay, so for all the odd elements here, only these two elements will provide the addition as odd. Only these two elements will provide the addition as odd. Therefore, for the 4 odd elements, multiply by them. Okay, and for the one even element, multiplied by this. So this is how the question approach is. Okay, what you have to simply do is, first you have to calculate the count of how many times each and every row is there. Then you have to count in those arrays that how many times even element is coming and how many times odd element is coming. Okay, how many times even element is coming and how many times odd element is coming. After that, just simply cross multiply and add, and you will get your answer. It's that simple. Okay, the important point to note here was, first you should know that the brute force will not work. Second, what we see is how will you calculate directly using the input only, that what will be the final answer of my matrix. Okay, even if you calculate them directly, you will still require order of n square. Okay, then what we have to do is, we need to just simply use our mathematics that odd plus odd is even and odd plus even is odd. So this is the important rule. Just count how many odd elements are here, count how many odd and even elements are here, cross multiply for the pairs, and you will get the answer. Okay, so what we are doing, we are simply cross multiplying all the odd and even pairs, and we are adding them, and nothing else. We are simply doing this and nothing else. Okay, so what are the steps in the algorithm? So the first point is, I have explained you the approach. So for those who wants to code it on their own, you can code it on their own now. Okay, I've explained you the approach, what we have to do. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just trying to write a pseudo algorithm. Okay, I'm going to write an algorithm. Okay, many of you can simply code it after just seeing the algorithm itself. Fine. For the rest, I will be writing a code for this in this video. Okay, I will be writing the whole code for this in this video. But first, let me give the chance for those who want to write their own code just by seeing the algorithm. Okay, and I have explained you the process. So even if you do not want to see the algorithm, you can pause the video and just recheck after that. Okay, after doing it your own, just recheck it. So the first step, what we have to do, so we have to follow some steps. So what is the first step we have to do? You have to count each element occurrences. Separately. Okay, so for the row, create a row matrix, row array. For a column, create a column array. Okay, and just have a count the each element occurrences. Okay, just store them. Second, what we have to do in this row and column, we have to calculate how many odd elements are there and how many even elements are there in both. Third, cross multiply odd and even elements and add them. Okay, is there anything that I'm missing here? So first, that is, you have to take the inputs, okay, of the row and column of all the queries. Fine. After that, what we have to do, after taking the inputs, you have to calculate these occurrences, store them in row and column arrays. Okay, create any array you want, and then after creating this row and column arrays, count how many odd and even elements are there in each row and column array. Okay, after that, just cross multiply them and add. Cross multiply means multiply odd with even. Okay, and add. Okay, how many odd are there? 2 odd are there. How many even are there? 2 even are there. So 2 into 2 becomes 4. Okay, and simply here just add. Okay, so total 6. So this is how we have to do this. Fine. So let's now write the whole code for this program, for this question. Fine. This was just an explanation of the question, how we reached to this point. After that, you just have to write it down. You have to perform all these operations and in a code and nothing else. Fine. So let's just write the code now. So let's begin with some coding. Okay, so scanner, I'm taking the input, scanner sc equals to new scanner system.in. Okay, then the test case variable, sorry for this, and the test case variable int t equals to sc.nextInt, while t minus minus is greater than 0. So this is a normal one. Now I have to take three inputs. So int n equals to hc dot next int. Okay, int m equals to hc dot next int. Fine. Int q equals to hc dot next int. Okay, so these are my three inputs. After using these three inputs, we will have a row array and a column array to store the rows and the columns. Okay, so int row equals to new int. So what will be the size of these rows? How many queries we have, that will be the size of the row. Okay, row array. And similarly for column array, how many queries we have. If we have 6 queries, so that means we have 6 rows and 6 column numbers. Okay, after this we just have to use a for loop int I equals to 0, I less than q and I plus plus, and store these two values. So row I equals to sc dot next int. Okay, so if you are using C or C++, so just instead of this next int and everything, you just have to use C out C in scanf printf. Okay, and then we have column I equals to sc dot next int. Okay, so we have row and we have column. Now after having row and column, so what we have done till now, let's see. So till now we have this row and this column. Okay, we do not have how many times these one is coming, or how many times the 2 is coming in row and column. What we have is the original row and column array. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to create another array. Let's call it frequency row array. Okay, and in that, how many times 1 is coming? 1 is coming 3 times, so you have to store at one index 3. Then how many times 2 is coming? 2 is coming 2 times, so you have to store at index 2 2. That means 2 is coming 2 times, 1 is coming 3 times. How many times 3 is coming? 3 is coming just 1 time, so you have to store at index 3 1. So that means 3 is coming 1 time in my original row array. Similarly for frequency column, what we have to do? How many times 1 is coming? 1 is coming 3 times, 2 is coming 2 times, 3 is coming 1 time. So here this here 1 is acting as an index for this, and the count of how many times this 1 is occurring in my original row array is actually the value. Okay, so this 2 is actually an index here, and how many times this 2 is occurring is the value. Okay, so we will code this part now. This is just a single for loop and nothing else. It is very easy. So here int frequency row equals to new int n plus 1 size. So why n plus 1 size? So when n equals to 3, index actually 0 to 2, index are actually 0 to 2, but here we exactly need 3. As you can see here, we have a value of 3. Okay, so in this case we exactly need the index 3, that it is not 0 1 2. Okay, we need exactly the index 3, therefore n plus 1 size greater than what is actually needed. Okay, now int frequency column. Okay, row is over, so frequency column equals to new int and m plus 1. So it was for row, therefore it was n, and for column it is m. Okay, now after getting this frequency and row and column, you just have to input the values. So int I equals to 0, I less than q, and I plus plus. So in the frequency row, of row of I plus plus. So as we can see, I just have told you that the row number will act as an index for the frequency, okay, and its value will be incremented one by one as soon as they occur. So frequency column of I plus plus. Fine. So now we have our frequency row and frequency column. So we have this 3 to 1 and 3 to 1. Now after this, what we have to do? After this, in this frequency row, you have to calculate how many odd elements are there, and in this frequency column, you have to calculate how many odd elements are there. Similarly for even elements, you have to calculate how many odd elements are there and how many even elements are there in this frequency row and frequency column. After that, we just have to multiply odd with even and even with odd and add them to get the answer. Okay, so the next step is, in this frequency row, just calculate how many odd are there and how many even are there. Fine. So let's do that now. So int row even count equal to 0. Okay, row odd count begin with 0. Fine. Similarly, column even count and column odd count. Column even count equals to 0 and column odd count equals to 0. Okay, now what we will do is equal to 0. Now what we will do is for int I equals to 1, I less than equals to n, and I plus plus. Okay, why starting from 1 not from 0? There, because 0 is not an element, 0 is not an index in our frequency row. We start with 1 there. Okay, so now if in our frequency row of I mod 2 equal to 0, that means we are checking for even. So if it is true, that means we have to increment our row even count. Okay, else we have to increment our row odd count. Okay, simple. And similarly for the same case, what we can do is just copy paste it, and we can do the same thing for our column. Okay, done. Column, and here also column. Fine. So what we have done, we have now our even count, we have now our odd count. After having these 4 counts, just simply print row even count multiplied by what? We have to multiply row even count by column odd count. Okay, and add it with row odd count multiplied by column even count. Okay, so this is our whole code. Okay, when you will submit it, it will get submitted, but it will not pass all the test cases. Now why will it not pass all the test cases? Can you guys think what will be the corner case for this question? It will not pass all the test cases. What will be the corner case for this question? So see the constraints. The constraint says that n and m can be 10 to the power of 5. So row and column can be 10 to the power of 5. 10 to the power of 5, n and m can be 10 to the power of 5. Let's see the constraints. So as you can see here, the constraints are n and m can be 10 to the power of 5. Now we are calculating how many times even count and odd counts are coming, correct? We are multiplying them. So can you guess what will be the problem if I'm using a data type int? See, I have given you a hint. What will be the problem if I'm using a data type int that I have used in my code? So 10 to the power of 5 is there. So if the row even count, in some case become exactly equal to 10 to the power of 5, and odd count also becomes 10 to the power of 5. That means our query is actually 10 to the power of 5, and in row all the even numbers are there, and in the column all the even numbers are there. So here we have 10 to the power of 5 even numbers, and here we have 10 to the power of 5 odd numbers. So when you multiply that, how many odd numbers you will have, that will be an overflow, that will be an integer overflow. Okay, it will become 10 to the power of 10 around. This is the worst case. Okay, around 10 to the power of 10 it will become. So what we have to simply do is, instead of using int, we have to use long. Okay, now we can submit this. You can submit this in C++. You have to use long. Fine. Now we can submit this and check whether our code is correct or not. Just copy paste it after this point, and we can simply check whether our code is correct or not. Okay, and before submitting, just change this to m. Okay, because we are doing in column, not in row, so this should be m, not n. So after you submit the code, this same code that I have just shown you, this code, you will see that it is perfectly get accepted. Okay, so this is how the second question is solved. Okay, this may not be the only approach, but this is a simple approach. Okay, it is simple for you guys to understand a simpler approach. Okay, this is step by step I have explained what I have done in this program. Okay, how do I reach at that point while creating a logic? Okay, if you are not able to solve this question, this point is very important, that odd and count odd plus even equals to odd, and odd equals to even. Okay, this point was really important, and you have to think of how a brute force approach can be converted into an optimized version. Now in my brute force approach I have to create a matrix. So if I want to avoid creating a matrix, then I have to do something with my input values, therefore the whole code revolves around the input values. So you have to think about it. The code revolves around the input values. The second thing, you should know about the frequency arrays. Okay, how you will calculate the frequency, of each number. Fine. So practice on these points, and you will be able to solve such questions. Fine. So this was the second question of my Codechef October long challenge, that was operations on matrix. Thank you.